So I got my mitts on a pair of Scarlet Violet Elite Trainer boxes. Since my thing is making custom cards, I'll be transforming every pull I get into some glorious custom shiny cards. Let's rip into it, shall we? Aside from those awesome promos, each box had the usual bits and pieces. Except in my Koraidon box, the dice somehow ended up on the outside of their packet. Weird. Into the first couple packs, I started with the Violet Miraidon box because I guess it's my preferred colour of the two, and straight out the gate with a Magnezone EX, hopefully a great sign of things to come. In a Photoshop, I decided to take some liberty with the shinies colours, tinting the main body yellow, more reminiscent of Magnemite and Magneton's shinies, rather than the pale grey Magnezone has. I think it makes it a bit more interesting and ties the line together nicely. Otherwise it was a pretty straightforward swap, a little time consuming maybe, but quite simple. The print on all these didn't end up great. My printer's been a bit odd of late and the colours came out a little skewed. On the upside I found some cool star effect holo film to replicate the new EX cards. Anyway, back to the packs. I must admit, I'm a really big fan of the new cards for Scarlet and Violet. The silver borders are the biggest plus for me. This is something I've wanted since I first saw Japanese cards a few years ago. I think it makes them all look so much cleaner, especially the illustration res. On top of that, the pull rates are awesome, something like 1 in 3 or so. Speaking of, pack 5 and 6, we should be just about due. Yep, there we go. Starly illustration rare keeping us nicely on track with the pull rates, and man, these illustration rares are just incredible cards. As far as shiny swaps go, this one was incredibly simple. The challenge stemmed from choosing which bird to make the shiny. I started with the first one, wasn't convinced, so I moved on to the second and ended up trying all at once. In the end, I chose to do all 3 options. Personally, the second is my favourite, but I guess that's up to opinion. Let me know if I'm right in the comments if you can be bothered. Otherwise, there are plenty more packs to open. As I was saying, illustration rares are pretty awesome, and the silver borders only heighten their appeal in my eyes. Though the yellow borders are definitely worse. I can see the nostalgia aspect, but the way it clashes with the artworks on things like the Galarian Gallery and Crown Zenith and in trainer galleries of sets before, it's too jarring. Unfortunately, we wrap up the Violet box with only the 2 pulls here, but the first pack from the Scarlet box gives us a bit back with a Drowsy illustration rare. The artwork of this card made it pretty tricky to do the shiny swap. I ended up taking all the saturation out and adding my own with Colorize, otherwise the shadows would look awful. I also ended up erasing the mask over the line work because it looked a little washed out. I wasn't in love with the final result, but one of the great things about this process is that since the cards are quite small, lots of imperfections end up hidden, so sometimes they come out better than you might expect. It's still not my best, I don't think, but I'm pretty happy. Back to those pull rates, aside from the fact that we're getting a good pull every 3 packs or so, even no-hit packs are a big improvement. The complete removal of non-holo rares is great, but more importantly, I love the idea of 2 reverses per pack. There's a specific technique for custom cards I touched on briefly in my Evolving Skies video that I plan on going back to in future. I think it'll be especially strong for things like retro cards, but it requires reverse holo donors. With these pull rates you could even think about using holo rares, but yeah, I think doubling the reverse holos is pretty good for custom card making.
Oh!
Yeah, that's a pull. It took me a minute to figure out what to do with this one. Of course I pull a trainer in a custom shiny Pokemon video, but this trainer is one of the professors. They kinda do have shinies. So the AI professor is the concept I ended up going with. As far as I could tell, the only thing that changes on them is those eyes, so I changed the eyes. At this point, I'm just thanking my lucky stars that this ended up being one of the 2 trainer cards I could have used here. Otherwise, I could have been in some trouble. As I opened the last couple of packs, I had my fingers crossed I could get 2 more hits, bringing the average overall back to expected, but more than that, I was praying to avoid doubling up on 2 hit boxes.
Oh! Oh, wow.
I think my reaction says it all there. As you saw in the intro, I already had some experience switching up a Koraidon card. From that, I knew the gradient on the crest and tail does not work with adjustment layers. So instead, I found a middle ground colour, here an orange, and using a really soft brush, painted over the areas. It looks pretty ordinary up close, but once it's printed out, those problems fade away nicely. The printer problems ended up hitting this card the hardest. It's just too dark. I also think there should be some type of film to better suit this style of card. Maybe a glitter of sorts. Regardless, I'm still happy with the results. In the end, the pull rates were a little below average, which isn't ideal, but the way it came back at the end there with those 2 massive hits, I'll definitely take quality like that over a little quantity. As for those custom shinies, I like them. The prints were a little disappointing, but I guess I'll have to fix that before next turn. In the meantime, if you didn't hate this experience, you might be interested in some of my other custom card making videos. Otherwise, I don't know, why are you still here?